Hi everyone! Before we get into this audiobook, I'd really appreciate it if you could hit the subscribe button and drop a like. It helps me out a lot as well as contributes a lot to the channel. Now, let's get into the story. I hope you enjoy The Wind Carried the Scent of Pine and Damp Earth, a familiar balm to Ilara's restless spirit. She had always known her mate would be powerful, perhaps even dangerous. The fates had whispered hints of it in the rustling leaves and the distant howls that echoed through the ancestral lands of the Moonpetal Pack. But even the deepest instincts, the most vivid premonitions, had failed to prepare her for the brutal truth. Her mate was the one who had extinguished her twin brother's light. The bond, that profound, soul-searing connection designed to unite two halves, now felt like a searing brand, chaining her to the very wolf who had shattered her world, destroyed half her soul. The agony of loss, raw and unrelenting, mingled with the bewildering pull of destiny, a cruel paradox that threatened to tear her asunder. But even as the instinct for vengeance clawed at her, a quiet, insidious whisper of doubt began to surface, a subtle discord in the symphony of her grief. The truth, she suspected, was far more complicated than the simple narrative of murder and retribution. Was it truly murder, or something far more agonizing, a desperate act of mercy? As the ancient secrets of their world began to unravel, exposing a hidden war simmering beneath the surface of their peaceful existence, Ilara knew she faced an impossible choice: to avenge her beloved twin, or to surrender to the bond, to love the one who had ended him. The echo of loss, the scent of his blood, coppery and sharp, still clung to the air of the clearing, even weeks after the incident. A phantom aroma that pierced Ilara's senses, twisting the knot of grief in her stomach tighter. Her twin, Lyra, vibrant and spirited, was gone. His laughter silenced, his presence a gaping void in her life. Lyra, with his unruly dark hair, eyes that mirrored her own pale gray, and a reckless courage that often bordered on foolishness. He had been her other half, a constant presence, a mirror reflecting her deepest thoughts and unspoken fears. Now only the echo of his existence remained, a hollow resonance in the chambers of her heart. The Moonpetal Pack, usually a vibrant community, was shrouded in a heavy quiet. The loss of a pack member, especially one as beloved as Lyra, cast a pall over their communal gatherings. But it was the circumstances of his death that truly festered, a wound that refused to heal. He had been found at the edge of the Whispering Woods, a sacred but often dangerous territory bordering the lands of the formidable Blood Moon Pack. His killer, the Alpha of the Blood Moon, a male known for his ruthless strength and unyielding authority, had admitted to the act. He claimed it was a necessary measure, a desperate defense. But to Ilara, it was simply cold-blooded murder. Alpha Rorik, a name that tasted like ash on her tongue, haunted her dreams. His image, pieced together from hushed whispers and fleeting glimpses, was one of imposing power. Broad shoulders, dark, piercing eyes, hair the color of midnight. He was a force of nature, a predator, and the thought that he was her fated mate was an unbearable torment. The mate bond, a deep, resonant hum within her very soul, pulsed with a magnetic pull, a perverse attraction that both repelled and terrified her. It was a cruel trick of the fates, weaving her destiny with the threads of her deepest sorrow. Her parents, Beta Lysander and Luna Seraphine, were consumed by their own grief, a silent, pervasive sorrow that permeated their every interaction. They looked at Ilara, the surviving twin, with a mixture of love and a profound aching pity. They, too, were bound by the customs of their world, by the sacred, unbreakable nature of the mate bond. But the injustice of it, the pain of such a cruel twist of fate, was evident in their shadowed eyes. They spoke of duty, of the need for peace between the packs, but their words were hollow, lacking the conviction that usually defined their counsel. Elara spent her days wandering the familiar paths of the moon-petal lands, seeking solace in the ancient trees and the rushing river that had always been her sanctuary. But even nature, usually so comforting, seemed to mock her now. Every rustle of leaves sounded like Lyra's whisper, every splash of water, the echo of his laughter. The scent of him, faint but persistent, was everywhere, a constant torment. She found herself at the edge of the whispering woods, gazing into the forbidden territory, a fierce, vengeful fire burning in her gut. She longed to cross the boundary, to confront Rorik, to demand answers, to inflict upon him a fraction of the pain he had caused. But the pack elders, wise and cautious, had strictly forbidden any such act. Retaliation would only lead to a full-scale war, a bloodbath that would claim more lives. Her wolf, usually a graceful, intuitive extension of her soul, was a tempest of conflicting emotions. The raw agony of Lyra's absence intertwined with the bewildering pull of the mate bond. It snarled at the injustice, clawing for vengeance, yet simultaneously yearned for the touch of its fated partner. It was a constant internal battle, a war of instinct against heartbreak. One cold, unforgiving morning, a messenger from the Blood Moon pack arrived at the Moonpetal Alpha's den. He carried a formal summons, an invitation to a meeting between the alphas of both packs. A gesture of reconciliation, or perhaps a strategic move to avert further bloodshed. Elara watched from a distance as her alpha, a stern, unyielding male named Alpha Thorn, read the parchment, his jaw tight. When he looked up, his gaze fell upon her, a flicker of something she couldn't quite decipher in his usually impenetrable eyes. She knew, with a chilling certainty, that this meeting would involve her. The mate bond, after all, was a powerful tool, a potential bridge, or a deadly weapon in the delicate dance of pack politics. The thought of facing Rorik, of feeling the pull of the bond with the wolf who had murdered her twin, sent a shiver of dread down her spine. But beneath the dread, a quiet, stubborn resolve began to solidify. She would go, she would face him, and she would uncover the truth, no matter how brutal it might be. The call of the bond, the journey to the Blood Moon Pack's territory, was fraught with a quiet tension. Elara rode in a sturdy, unadorned carriage alongside her parents and Alpha Thorn, the silence inside the vehicle punctuated only by the rhythmic creak of the wheels and the distant calls of forest birds. The air outside was crisp, carrying the scent of impending winter, a chill that seemed to seep into her very bones. Her wolf was restless, a coiled spring of anxiety, and a perplexing, magnetic pull. The closer they drew to the Blood Moon lands, the stronger the mate bond pulsed, a deep, resonant thrumming in her very core. It was a bizarre, almost violent sensation, the inherent instinct to draw close to her fated partner warring with the raw, burning desire to tear him apart. The Blood Moon territory was vast, the trees taller, denser, casting long, imposing shadows. The scent of their pack, sharp and territorial, filled the air, a stark contrast to the softer, more gentle aromas of Moonpetal. The Blood Moon warriors who met them at the border were a formidable sight, tall, heavily muscled, their eyes keen and watchful. They carried themselves with an aura of quiet power, a reflection of their formidable alpha. Elara felt their scrutinizing gazes, their silent assessments of her, the Moonpetal twin whose brother had died by their alpha's hand. As they approached the Blood Moon Alpha's den, a grand structure built of dark, rough-hewn timber and imposing stone. The mate bond surged, a wave of raw energy that threatened to overwhelm her. Her breath hitched in her throat, her heart hammering against her ribs. She felt him, his presence radiating power, a primal force that drew her in despite her every instinct to flee. This was Rorik, the killer, her mate. The den was vast, sparsely decorated but imposing. The air was heavy, charged with an almost palpable tension. Alpha Rorik stood by a large stone hearth, a roaring fire casting dancing shadows on his formidable frame. He was even more imposing than she had imagined. Tall, with broad shoulders that spoke of immense strength, and dark, unruly hair that fell across a stern, chiseled face. His eyes, the color of molten obsidian, held a depth that sent a shiver down her spine. They were watchful, intelligent, and held a glint of something unreadable. When his gaze found hers, the mate bond flared, a sudden, searing connection that coursed through her veins, igniting every nerve ending. It was a shock, an electric current that stole her breath. She felt an instant, overwhelming urge to close the distance between them, to feel his touch, to confirm the undeniable truth of their connection. But the image of Lyra, smiling, vibrant, then broken, flashed before her eyes, and the urge was replaced by a cold, sharp blade of pain. Rurik's expression, initially stern, softened imperceptibly as his eyes met hers. A flicker of something, perhaps recognition, perhaps a deeper, more profound emotion, passed through his dark gaze. But then it hardened again, a mask of unyielding authority settling over his features. Alpha Thorn, his voice, low and firm, broke the silence. Alpha Rorik, we are here as requested. Rorik nodded, his voice a deep, resonant rumble that vibrated through Ilara's bones. Alpha Thorn, thank you for coming. His gaze lingered on Ilara for a fraction of a second too long before he shifted his attention back to her Alpha. The meeting began, a formal exchange of pleasantries and veiled threats, all designed to maintain a fragile peace. Ilara sat beside her parents, her senses acutely aware of Rorik's every movement, every subtle shift in his aura. The mate bond pulsed relentlessly, a constant, irritating hum beneath the surface of her skin. It was a cruel reminder of the impossible situation she found herself in, bound to the very male she wished to destroy. As the discussions progressed, focusing on territorial boundaries and reparations for Lyra's death, Rorik explained his version of events again. He spoke of Lyra venturing too deep into Blood Moon territory, of a perceived threat, of a desperate act of self-defense. His voice was calm, devoid of emotion, but Ilara could feel the underlying tension, the subtle vibrations of a truth that remained unspoken. She watched his face, searching for any flicker of remorse, any sign of deceit. But his features remained impassive, his eyes unreadable. Your brother crossed the ancient markers, Rorik stated, his voice even. He was warned, he carried a weapon, and he moved with aggressive intent. I had no choice. Ilara's wolf snarled in protest, a guttural growl that almost escaped her lips. He would never attack without cause, she thought, her mind screaming in defiance. Lyra was reckless, yes, but not suicidal, not malicious. There was something missing, a crucial piece of the puzzle that continued to elude her. The meeting concluded without a definitive resolution, a ceasefire rather than a true peace. But before they left, Rorik turned to Ilara, his dark eyes locking onto hers. The mate bond surged, a powerful, almost painful pull. Ilara, he said, his voice a low rumble, tinged with something she couldn't quite identify. We need to speak, alone. It was not a request, but a command, delivered with the subtle authority of an alpha. Ilara's wolf, despite its conflicting emotions, stirred with a strange sense of anticipation. This was her chance. Her chance to confront him, to demand the truth, to perhaps, finally, understand the depths of this cruel, undeniable bond. The truth in the scent the air in Rorik's private chambers was surprisingly sparse, devoid of the opulent decorations Ilara might have expected from an alpha. The scent of him, strong and potent, filled the space. Dark earth, ancient pine, and something else, something uniquely his. A deep, primal musk that resonated with her very core. It was the scent of her mate, a heady, overwhelming aroma that both soothed and agitated her wolf. The mate bond, no longer constrained by the presence of others, pulsed with a dizzying intensity, threatening to unravel her carefully constructed composure. Rorik stood by the large, unadorned window, his back to her, gazing out at the darkening forest. His silence was imposing, a heavy blanket that pressed down on her. Ilara's heart hammered against her ribs, a frantic drum against the insistent hum of the bond. She wanted to scream, to rage, to demand answers, but something held her back, a strange sense of deference to his quiet power. Finally he turned, his obsidian eyes locking onto hers. The intensity of his gaze was almost unbearable, a silent probe into her very soul. "The bond is strong, Ilara," he stated, his voice a low, gravelly rumble that sent shivers down her spine. "Even with the bitterness." "Bitterness?" she retorted, her voice sharp, a tremor betraying her feigned composure. "You killed my brother, Alpha. What would you expect?" He took a step towards her, and her wolf instinctively tensed, a fight-or-flight response warring with the magnetic pull of the bond. "I did what was necessary," he said, his voice unwavering. "Your brother was carrying a weapon, a wolfsbane-tipped dagger. He was deep in our territory, approaching a sacred ground. He left me no choice." Ilara scoffed, a dry, humorless sound. Lyra would never harm an innocent. He was reckless, yes, but never malicious. He would never trespass with hostile intent. Rorik's gaze softened, a fleeting, almost imperceptible shift that surprised her. "He wasn't after me, Ilara. He was after something else. Someone else." Her breath hitched. "What are you talking about?" He walked to a heavy wooden chest, intricately carved with ancient symbols, and opened it. He pulled out a small leather-bound journal, its pages worn and brittle. "This was found on your brother's body," he said, handing it to her. Ilara took the journal, her fingers trembling. It was Lyra's. His distinct, sprawling handwriting filled the pages. As she read, her blood ran cold. The journal wasn't just a diary, it was a chronicle of his desperate search for answers, his growing suspicion of a hidden faction within their own pack, a group involved in illegal trade of wolfsbane and other dangerous bika substances. And not just within Moonpetal, but rumored to have connections within the Blood Moon as well. He had been investigating, quietly, obsessively, seeking justice for a friend who had been poisoned, a death that had been dismissed as an accident. He suspected a conspiracy, Rorik explained, his voice low. He believed a secret organization, hidden within our territories, was poisoning wolves, weakening them, turning them into docile tools for their illicit trade. He was trying to expose them. Ilara's mind reeled. This was not the Lyra she knew, the carefree, reckless twin. This was a Lyra driven by a dangerous purpose, a Lyra consumed by a secret war. "But why didn't he tell me?" she whispered, the words catching in her throat. "He was trying to protect you," Rorik said, his voice strangely gentle. He knew the danger. He knew the risks. He went in alone, hoping to gather enough evidence before confronting anyone. And you found him, Ilara finished, the pieces of the puzzle slowly, agonizingly, clicking into place. Rorik nodded. He was at the edge of the Moon Petal sacred grounds, near an old, unused cave system that our scouts had reported as active. He was on the trail of someone. When I confronted him, he moved, instinctually, to defend himself. He drew the dagger. It was wolfsbane tipped. Ilara, a direct threat to an alpha. I had no choice but to respond. His voice was heavy with a sorrow she hadn't expected. A quiet regret that resonated with her own pain. It was either him or me, and if I fell, my pack would have been vulnerable. The full weight of his words settled upon her. Lyra, her impulsive, brave twin, had been caught in a web far more intricate and dangerous than she could have imagined. He hadn't been killed in a random act of aggression, but in a desperate pursuit of justice, a tragic casualty in a secret war. The burning desire for vengeance, which had consumed her for weeks, now felt cold, replaced by a profound, aching understanding. "Who are they?" she asked, her voice barely a whisper. "This organization? Who was he after?" Rorik's eyes, dark and intense, met hers. "That's what we need to find out, Ilara. Together." The mate bond pulsed, stronger than ever, no longer a chain of torment, but a lifeline, drawing her towards him, towards a shared purpose. The truth, raw and devastating, had finally emerged from the shadows, and with it, a new, terrifying path forward. She had to decide whether to avenge her brother, or to join forces with the Alpha who had ended him, to seek justice for Lyra in a way he would have truly wanted. The answer, though painful, was becoming clear. The whispers of a hidden war, the revelation of Lyra's secret investigation, etched in the brittle pages of his journal, shattered Ilara's world for a second time. The grief, once a raw, unyielding agony, now transformed into a complex tapestry of sorrow, confusion, and a burgeoning sense of purpose. Lyra hadn't been a naive victim. He had been a warrior, albeit a reckless one, pursuing a truth that threatened to unravel the very fabric of their society. The image of Rorik, the cold-blooded killer, began to dissipate, replaced by a more nuanced, unsettling portrait of a male forced to make an impossible choice. The mate bond, once a cruel tether to her brother's destroyer, now felt like a desperate plea, a call to a shared destiny that transcended personal pain. Rorik's chambers, once a place of tense confrontation, now felt like a sanctuary, a quiet space where the fragments of truth could finally be pieced together. He had opened a small, hidden compartment in the wooden chest, revealing a collection of unsettling objects. Withered wolfsbane leaves, a crude map with unfamiliar markings, and a small, tarnished silver amulet depicting a serpent entwined around a shattered moon. These were found at various sites along the border, Rorik explained, his voice low and grave. Our scouts have been noticing unusual activity for months. Discarded wolfsbane, strange symbols carved into trees, wolves behaving erratically, almost as if they were drugged. Ilara picked up the amulet, her fingers tracing the cold, smooth metal. The serpent and shattered moon symbol was unfamiliar, yet unsettling. It resonated with a faint, disturbing energy. Lyra's journal mentioned similar symbols, crude drawings of them scattered through his notes. He had called them the Moon Serpent Cult. Lyra suspected they were poisoning wolves, Ilara murmured, her eyes scanning the journal again. To weaken them, to make them compliant for some kind of illicit trade. Rorik nodded grimly. We've seen it in our own pack. Wolves, usually strong and healthy, succumbing to strange illnesses, becoming withdrawn, lethargic. We attributed it to a rare strain of wolfsbane, but your brother's research points to Pombra. Something far more sinister. His gaze met hers, dark and intense. The mate bond hummed, a deep resonance that confirmed their shared understanding. This isn't just about territorial disputes or individual acts of aggression, Ilara. This is a war, a secret war, waged from within, designed to weaken our kind, to exploit us. The realization settled upon her with a heavy weight. Lyra hadn't died in a senseless skirmish. He had fallen in the line of duty, a casualty of a hidden conflict. Her grief for him was still raw, but now it was tinged with a fierce resolve. She wouldn't just mourn him, she would honor him by continuing his fight. Who is behind this? Ilara asked, her voice firm, resolute. Rorik shook his head. We don't know yet. They are cunning, operating in the shadows, leaving few traces. They seem to exploit existing tensions between packs, using fear and mistrust as their shield. Over the next few hours, they pored over Lyra's journal and Rorik's collected evidence. Ilara, with her twins' keen observational skills and intuitive mind, was able to piece together fragments of Lyra's cryptic notes, connecting them to Rorik's more extensive but disparate findings. They discovered a pattern of seemingly isolated incidents across various packs, all linked by the wolfsbane poisoning and the moon serpent symbol. It was a terrifyingly elaborate network, operating with ruthless efficiency. Their minds, though from different packs and different experiences, worked in unsettling harmony. The mate bond facilitated this, a subtle bridge between their thoughts, allowing for an almost telepathic understanding. Ideas flowed between them, hypotheses formed and discarded, as they slowly unraveled the layers of deception. The scent of pine and earth from Rorik, once a reminder of the barrier between them, now felt like a comforting presence, grounding her in the face of such overwhelming revelations. Rorik spoke of his own pack's history, of ancient treaties and forgotten skirmishes, of the delicate balance of power that had always existed between the Blood Moon and Moonpetal. He revealed how tensions had been deliberately stoked, how minor disputes had been exaggerated, all to distract from the true threat growing in the shadows. He confessed his own frustrations, his inability to pinpoint the source of the insidious poison, his desperate attempts to protect his pack from an unseen enemy. His vulnerability, a rare glimpse into the mind of a formidable alpha, resonated deeply with Ilara. My scouts have been investigating these strange occurrences for months, Rorik explained, his gaze distant as if seeing past events. We've found hidden caches of wolfsbane, far more potent than any naturally occurring variety. And wolves, once strong and healthy, became docile, almost listless, as if their spirit had been leached away. We treated it as an internal problem, a mysterious illness. Your brother's journal has shed a terrifying light on it. Ilara traced a diagram in Lyra's journal, a rough sketch of a sprawling cave system deep within the Whispering Woods. He was trying to locate their main hideout, she murmured. He believed this was where they processed the wolfsbane, where they planned their operations. The Whispering Woods are sacred to both our packs, Rorik noted, his voice low. Ancient grounds, rarely trespassed upon. A perfect hiding place for those who wish to remain unseen. The sheer scale of the conspiracy was staggering. This wasn't just a few rogue wolves. It was a sophisticated organization with far-reaching influence. They had infiltrated packs, poisoned their members, and manipulated interpack relations for their own nefarious purposes. The thought sent a chill down Ilara's spine. Lyra, in his reckless bravery, had stumbled upon something far greater than he had anticipated. As the moon climbed higher, Casting long silver shadows across the room, a new resolve settled within Ilara. The path of vengeance, once so clear, had dissolved, replaced by a more complex, profound duty. She would not avenge Lyra's death with blind rage, but with calculated determination. She would honor his sacrifice by uncovering the truth, by dismantling the network that had claimed his life. And to do that, she knew she needed Rorik. The mate bond, once a source of torment, now pulsed with a shared purpose, a silent promise of partnership. The hunt for justice, for truth, had begun. A precarious alliance the agreement reached between Ilara and Rorik was a fragile one, forged in the crucible of shared sorrow and a desperate need for answers. They decided to keep their alliance a secret, at least for now. The Moonpetal Pack, still grieving Lyra's death, would never accept an open collaboration with his killer. The Blood Moon, fiercely loyal to their alpha, might view Rorik's association with a Moonpetal Wolf as a sign of weakness. Their shared mission, to uncover the Moon Serpent cult and dismantle their network, demanded stealth and discretion. Their secret meetings took place under the cloak of night, in a secluded cave system nestled deep within the Whispering Woods, a neutral ground known only to a select few. The air in the caves was cool and damp, carrying the scent of ancient earth and hidden secrets. The silence was profound, broken only by the drip of water from the stalactites and the occasional rustle of unseen creatures. Here, away from the prying eyes of their packs, they could speak freely, sharing their findings, piecing together the insidious puzzle Lyra had stumbled upon. Ilara brought with her Lyra's updated journal, filled with even more cryptic notes and observations. Rorik brought reports from his most trusted scouts, detailing strange disappearances, unusual patrols, and the discovery of more crude moon serpent symbols etched onto trees and rocks in secluded areas. They spent hours poring over maps, tracing the suspected movements of the cult, mapping out potential hideouts. The mate bond, in these clandestine meetings, grew stronger, more defined. It was no longer just a bewildering pull, but a subtle symphony of connection. Ideas flowed between them with an almost telepathic ease. A shared glance conveyed volumes. A touch of their hands, accidental at first, then deliberate, sent tremors through their beings. There was a primal magnetism between them, a deep resonance that transcended the pain of their past. It was a dangerous, exhilarating dance, two souls irrevocably drawn together, even as the specter of Lyra's death hung heavy between them. Rorik, the imposing alpha, revealed layers Ilara had never imagined. He was not just a ruthless warrior, but a keen strategist, a meticulous planner. He spoke of the heavy burden of leadership, of the constant need to prioritize his pack's safety above all else. He confessed the weight of the decision he had made regarding Lyra, a choice that still haunted him, the desperate act to protect his pack from a perceived immediate threat. His regret was palpable, a deep current beneath his calm exterior, and Ilara found herself slowly, reluctantly, beginning to understand. "I saw him as a threat," Rorik explained one night, his voice low, his gaze fixed on the flickering flame of a small fire they had built for warmth. "A lone wolf, armed, deep in our sacred territory, moving towards what I now know is a potential cult stronghold. My instincts screamed danger. I reacted as any alpha would." Ilara nodded, her own heart aching with a new understanding. "He was so desperate to expose them," she whispered, thinking of Lyra's fierce determination. He didn't consider the consequences. Their conversations stretched late into the night, exploring not just the conspiracy, but their own pack's histories, their traditions, their differing perspectives. Ilara, with her moon petal upbringing, valued intuition, empathy, and the interconnectedness of all life. Rorik from the Blood Moon emphasized strength, discipline, and the unwavering loyalty to the pack. They found common ground in their shared desire for justice, for protecting their people, and for honoring Lyra's sacrifice. The physical contact between them, initially accidental, grew more frequent, more deliberate, a hand brushing against hers as they pored over a map, a shoulder brushing against his as they moved through the narrow cave passages. Each touch sent a jolt of energy through them, a confirmation of the bond's undeniable pull. One night, as they discussed a particularly dangerous lead, Rorik reached out, his calloused thumb gently tracing the line of her jaw. His touch was electric, igniting a tremor deep within her. Her wolf purred, a low, contented rumble, responding instinctively to the touch of its mate. "This bond, Ilara," he murmured, his voice husky, his dark eyes searching hers. "It demands attention. It demands acknowledgement." Ilara's breath hitched. Her mind screamed in protest, reeling from the implications of his words. How could she, Lyra's twin, surrender to the very male who had ended her brother's life? But her body betrayed her, leaning into his touch, yearning for more. The conflicting emotions were a tempest within her, a battle between loyalty to her brother and the undeniable call of destiny. They discovered that the Moon Serpent cult was not just poisoning wolves, but slowly corrupting the ancient ley lines that crisscrossed their territories, weakening the very spiritual essence of their packs. Lyra's journal contained cryptic references to corrupted energy, to the draining of sacred power. This explained the strange illnesses, the lethargy, the feeling of vulnerability that had plagued both their packs. The cult sought to sever the wolves' connection to their ancestral lands, to make them easier to control, to exploit. The realization brought a new urgency to their mission. This wasn't just about justice for Lyra. It was about protecting their entire species, their very way of life. The bond between Ilara and Rorik, once a source of unbearable conflict, now solidified into a powerful, precarious alliance, bound by a shared secret and a common, dangerous enemy. The whispers of a hidden war were growing louder, and they, the unlikely pair, were at its epicenter. The truth, they knew, was just beginning to reveal itself, layer by agonizing layer, and it demanded their complete, unwavering focus. Echoes of betrayal the deeper Ilara and Rorik delved into Lyra's meticulous notes and Rorik's scout reports, the more intricate and disturbing the web of the Moon Serpent cult became. The evidence pointed not just to a clandestine trade in wolfsbane, but to a calculated effort to destabilize the packs, exploiting existing rivalries and grievances. The whispers of the hidden war grew louder, its insidious tendrils reaching into the very heart of their communities. Their secret meetings in the Whispering Woods cave system continued, becoming a vital lifeline in their precarious alliance. The scent of pine and damp earth mingled with the subtle, intoxicating musk of Rorik, a constant reminder of their shared purpose and the undeniable pull of the mate bond. They were a strange, dangerous duo. The grieving sister bound to her brother's killer, united by a truth that threatened to shatter their world. Lyra's journal revealed a growing suspicion toward certain individuals within both the Moonpetal and Blood Moon packs. He had meticulously documented their unusual movements, their clandestine meetings, their sudden acquisition of wealth. One name, in particular, kept resurfacing: Silas, a respected elder of the Moonpetal pack, known for his wise counsel and unwavering loyalty. The idea was abhorrent to Ilara. Silas had been a mentor, a comforting presence throughout her life. But Lyra's notes, filled with dates and locations, painted a disturbingly convincing picture. Rorik, too, had been investigating suspicious activity within his own ranks. A powerful warrior, Kale, known for his ferocity and ambition, had been exhibiting strange behavior, his loyalty seemingly unwavering, yet his actions subtly undermining Rorik's authority. The evidence against Kale was circumstantial, but combined with Lyra's findings, a chilling pattern began to emerge. The cult had infiltrated the highest echelons of both packs, turning trusted allies into unwitting pawns, or worse, willing conspirators. "Silas?" Ilara whispered one night, her voice trembling as she stared at Lyra's damning entry. "It can't be." Rorik placed a hand on her shoulder, his touch grounding. "Lyra wouldn't have written it down if he wasn't certain, Ilara. He knew the risk he was taking. He wouldn't have implicated someone without significant proof." The mate bonds surged, a silent comfort in the face of such a devastating betrayal. It was a bizarre paradox. Finding solace in the touch of the male who had once embodied her deepest pain, now her unwavering ally in the face of this profound deception. They discovered that the cult was exploiting an ancient prophecy, a forgotten lore of a great severing that would return the wolfkind to a primal state, free from the constraints of their human forms. They promised power, ultimate freedom, a return to untamed wildness. But Lyra's research indicated the prophecy was a twisted lie, a deception designed to lure unsuspecting wolves into submission, to make them more susceptible to the wolfsbane and other unknown poisons they were injecting into the ley lines. "They're not freeing wolves," Rorik explained, his voice grim. "They're turning them into mindless drones, puppets for their own agenda. They're severing their connection to their instincts, their true power, turning them into docile tools for their illicit trade." The revelation sent a chill down Ilara's spine. The idea of her people, proud and fierce, being manipulated, debased, for the sake of some dark, power-hungry cult, ignited a cold fury within her. Lyra's reckless bravery, his desperate pursuit of the truth, suddenly made perfect, tragic sense. He had been trying to save them all. Their conversations grew longer, more intense. They shared meals of dried meat and berries, their hands brushing, their gazes lingering. The physical attraction, once a source of conflict, now became an undeniable undercurrent, a silent promise of deeper connection. Rorik spoke of the burden of leadership, the constant vigilance required to protect his pack. He confessed the isolation of his position, the inability to fully trust even those closest to him. Ilara found herself offering comfort, her empathy reaching across the divide that had once separated them. One night, as they discussed their next move, mapping out a potential surveillance operation, Rorik reached out, his hand gently cupping her cheek. His touch was tender, yet possessive, sending a shiver of longing through her. The mate bond flared, a brilliant burst of warmth and connection. "Ilara," he murmured, his voice husky, his thumb stroking her skin. "This is not just about our packs. This is about us. This bond. It's undeniable." Her breath hitched, her heart hammered against her ribs. Lyra's face, etched in grief, flashed before her eyes, a silent reproach. But then, another image. Lyra, resolute and brave, pursuing the truth, his eyes filled with a fierce determination. She remembered his words, spoken years ago, about understanding, about forgiveness. The past, she realized, was a weight that could either crush her or propel her forward. "I know," she whispered, her voice barely audible, acknowledging the truth that had been simmering beneath the surface for weeks. Her hand instinctively reached up, grasping his, her fingers intertwining with his. The touch solidified the bond, a powerful magnetic pull that left no room for doubt. Their lips met, tentative at first, then with a growing intensity, a desperate expression of emotions too complex for words. It was a kiss of grief and longing, of shared purpose and undeniable destiny. The scent of pine and earth, his scent, enveloped her, drawing her deeper into his embrace. In that moment, the weight of Lyra's death, the burden of their shared secret, the looming threat of the cult, all faded into the background. There was only the raw, undeniable connection between two souls, bound by fate, united by a profound, agonizing truth. The kiss deepened, a silent vow to face the coming storm together, to seek justice for Lyra, not with vengeance, but with a love that transcended even death. The path ahead was perilous, fraught with betrayal and danger, but they would face it as one. The war, the secret war, was about to erupt into the light. The unveiling the kiss, a silent, desperate acknowledgement of their bond, solidified their alliance into something far more profound. It was a silent promise to navigate the treacherous path ahead as one, to face the betrayal that festered within their own ranks, and to confront the insidious evil of the moon serpent cult. The love that blossomed between them, unexpectedly, agonizingly, felt like a sacred duty, a way to honor Lyra's sacrifice by ensuring his pursuit of truth was not in vain. Their clandestine meetings in the Whispering Woods continued, but now they carried a new intimacy, a shared burden of affection and a silent understanding that transcended words. They spoke in hushed tones, their breaths mingling in the cool, damp air of the cave, mapping out their strategy, preparing for the inevitable confrontation. The mate bond hummed constantly between them, a comforting presence amidst the growing dread of discovery. The evidence against Silas, the Moonpetal Elder, and Kale, the Blood Moon Warrior, mounted. Lyra's journal had detailed their secret meetings, their coded messages, their involvement in the distribution of weakened wolfsbane that slowly eroded a wolf's natural resistance. Rorik's scouts had confirmed their movements, tracking them to secluded clearings and abandoned dens, observing their interactions with cloaked figures whose scents were unfamiliar, foreign. The cult was not just poisoning wolves they were recruiting, building an army of compliant, weakened individuals for some unknown, larger purpose. They intend to sever the wolves' connection to their ancient lineage, Rorik explained one night, his voice grim, as they examined Lyra's notes on corrupted ley lines. To break their will, to make them easy prey for a future invasion. They're preparing for a full-scale takeover. Ilara's blood ran cold. The thought of their proud, ancient species reduced to mindless puppets ignited a fierce, protective rage within her. Who would want to do such a thing? She whispered, her voice trembling. Rorik's gaze met hers, dark and resolute. That remains the final piece of the puzzle. But the great severing prophecy, the one they twist for their own ends, speaks of an ancient enemy, a forgotten race that seeks to reclaim dominance over our lands. The plan they devised was audacious, dangerous, and required precise coordination. They would expose Silas and Kale simultaneously, forcing the cult into the open. It was a risky maneuver, a gamble that could plunge both packs into civil war, but they knew it was their only option. The truth, however painful, had to be revealed. The Moonpetal Pack's annual gathering of elders was the chosen moment for Ilara's confrontation with Silas. The ancient stone amphitheater, nestled deep within the Moonpetal lands, was filled with the wisdom and experience of generations. The air was thick with the scent of sacred herbs and reverence. Ilara stood before them, her heart pounding, Lyra's journal clutched in her hand. Her parents sat among the elders, their faces etched with concern, unaware of the bombshell she was about to drop. "Elders," Ilara began, her voice clear and strong, though a tremor ran through her. "I come before you, not just as Lyra's twin, but as a messenger of truth." She then meticulously, painstakingly, laid out the evidence, reading from Lyra's journal, detailing Silas's clandestine activities, his suspicious meetings, his involvement in the wolfsbane trade. The stunned silence in the amphitheater was deafening. Whispers erupted, then incredulous murmurs. Silas, who had been sitting calmly, his face a mask of benevolent wisdom, slowly began to pale. "These are vile accusations, child," Silas thundered, his voice cracking with feigned outrage. "A grieving sister, driven to madness. This is treason." But Ilara stood firm, her gaze unwavering. "Lyra died seeking this truth. He sacrificed his life to expose the rot within our pack." She then produced the small, tarnished silver amulet, depicting the serpent entwined around a shattered moon. "This is the mark of the moon serpent cult, a symbol of those who would poison our lands and enslave our people." She looked directly at Silas, her eyes burning with a fierce conviction. "And it was found in Lyra's final resting place, along with the undeniable proof of your betrayal." At the same moment, miles away in the Blood Moon territory, Rorik executed his part of the plan. The Blood Moon Tax warriors were gathered for their morning training, their formations precise, their movements sharp. Rorik, in a powerful display of alpha authority, confronted Kale, laying bare the evidence of his betrayal, the subtle acts of sabotage, the secret dealings with the cult's operatives. Kale, caught off guard, reacted with a desperate surge of aggression, confirming his guilt. A swift, brutal battle ensued, ending with Kale's swift defeat and capture. Back in the Moonpetal Amphitheater, the evidence was overwhelming. Other elders, those who had secretly suspected Silas's duplicity but lacked proof, began to voice their concerns, confirming strange encounters, unusual requests from him. The scent of fear, then fury, filled the air. Silas, seeing his deception unravel, finally broke. With a desperate snarl, he shifted, attempting to flee, confirming his guilt beyond a shadow of a doubt. But the Mooncuddle warriors, alerted by Ilara's strategic positioning, were ready. Silas was swiftly apprehended, his betrayal exposed for all to see. The revelation of the Moon Serpent cult's infiltration sent shockwaves through both packs. The initial anger and confusion slowly morphed into a collective realization of the insidious threat they had faced. The image of Lyra, the reckless twin, transformed into that of a tragic hero, his sacrifice illuminated by the terrible truth. The Moonpetal Pack, reeling from the betrayal of an elder, finally understood the true circumstances of Lyra's death, the desperate choice Rorik had been forced to make. The resentment towards the Blood Moon Alpha, though not entirely gone, was significantly diminished, replaced by a grudging respect for his grim determination to uncover the truth. As news of the joint operation, of the synchronized exposure of the traitors, spread between the packs, a new sentiment began to emerge. A cautious hope, a dawning understanding that their true enemy lay not across territorial lines, but in the shadows that sought to divide and conquer them all. The bond between Ilara and Rorik, now no longer a secret, became a symbol of this fragile, yet powerful, new alliance. It was a bond forged in pain, sealed by a kiss, and now publicly acknowledged in the crucible of truth. The war, long hidden, had finally been unveiled, and the future of their kind depended on their ability to stand together, united against the unseen enemy. The unseen enemy, the exposure of Silas and Cale, was merely the first volley in what Ilara and Rorik now understood was a full-scale, clandestine war. Their interrogations, brutal and relentless, revealed the true depth of the Moon Serpent cult's infiltration. They were not just a small faction, they were a vast, organized network with cells operating in seemingly disparate packs across the continent. Their ultimate goal: to sever the connection between the wolfkind and their ancestral lands, to dilute their spiritual essence, making them easier to control and, ultimately, to eradicate. The cult's leader remained elusive, a shadowy figure known only as the Weaver. Silas and Cale, though loyal to the cult, had never met the Weaver in person, only receiving their orders through intermediaries and coded messages. The extent of their knowledge was limited to their immediate cells and the distribution of the weakened wolfsbane. This meant Ilara and Rorik had merely scratched the surface of a much deeper, more sinister conspiracy. The Moonpetal and Blood Moon packs, still reeling from the betrayal within their own ranks, were forced to confront a terrifying reality. The initial shock and anger gave way to a grudging acceptance of their shared predicament. The make bond between Ilara and Rorik, once a source of deep conflict, now became a symbol of necessary unity. It was a bridge between two packs, historically wary of each other, now forced to rely on each other for survival. Their parents, Beta Lysander and Luna Seraphine, along with the Blood Moons Luna and Beta, now fully aware of the extent of Lyra's sacrifice and the looming threat, became fierce advocates for cooperation. The grief for Lyra, still fresh and aching, was now tempered with a profound respect for his bravery, his relentless pursuit of truth. His memory became a rallying cry, a poignant reminder of the stakes involved. Ilara and Rorik spent countless hours in strategic meetings, not just with each other, but with trusted advisors from both packs. They analyzed every scrap of information, every cryptic note from Lyra's journal, every intercepted message from the cult. The Moon Serpent symbol, once a vague, unsettling image, now held a terrifying significance, its presence marking sites of corruption and recruitment. They discovered the cult's method of poisoning was sophisticated. It wasn't simply wolfsbane in food or drink. They were contaminating the water sources, infusing ancient trees, and even targeting specific individuals through prolonged, subtle exposure. The weakened wolfsbane, disguised as traditional herbal remedies, would slowly erode a wolf's natural resistance, making them susceptible to the cult's influence, dulling their senses, severing their primal connection to their wolf. The cult wasn't just after physical control, they were after spiritual subjugation. Rorik, with his deep understanding of pack dynamics and his network of loyal scouts, organized covert missions to track down cult operatives and rescue enslaved wolves. Ilara, leveraging her intuitive abilities and her unique connection to Lyra's past investigations, became invaluable in deciphering the cult's coded messages and predicting their next moves. Their abilities complemented each other, their minds working in seamless synchronicity, a testament to the power of their bond. The physical intimacy between them grew, a natural progression of their shared purpose and undeniable connection. In the quiet moments between strategic discussions, a brush of hands lingered. A shared gaze held deeper meaning. The scent of Rorik, earthy and potent, became Ilara's anchor, a grounding presence in the turbulent storm of their lives. His touch, firm and reassuring, quelled the anxieties that still flickered within her. The scars of Lyra's death were still there, deep and unhealing, but the agonizing conflict within her had softened, replaced by a quiet acceptance of the bond that had been forged in tragedy. One crisp morning, during a joint training exercise meant to foster unity between the Moon Petal and Blood Moon warriors, a coordinated attack by cult operatives erupted. It was swift, brutal, and designed to sow chaos and distrust. Wolves, their eyes clouded with the dullness of the wolfsbane's influence, attacked their own kind. Their movements unnatural, their instincts dulled. Ilara and Rorik, leading their respective warriors, fought side by side. Their movements were a symphony of power and precision, a testament to their shared training and inherent connection. Rorik, a formidable force of nature in his wolf form, tore through the attackers, his snarls echoing through the clearing. Ilara, agile and swift, moved with a lethal grace, her senses acutely aware of every subtle shift in the battle. She used her intuitive abilities, anticipating attacks, directing her warriors with silent commands, her pale gray eyes scanning the chaos for any sign of cult leaders. During the battle, Ilara encountered a particularly aggressive cult operative, a large, hulking male whose eyes were completely devoid of natural wolfish light. He moved with a chilling, unnatural precision, his attacks relentless. As they fought, a faint, unsettling scent, a subtle hint of something ancient and powerful, emanated from him. It was a scent Ilara recognized from Lyra's journal, a vague reference to a tainted ancient. It was the scent of the Weaver. Before she could press her advantage, the operative received a silent command from an unseen source and retreated, vanishing into the dense forest, leaving behind a trail of fear and confusion. Ilara and Rorik pursued, but the operative was swift and the dense undergrowth provided ample cover. They returned to the clearing, their hearts heavy with the knowledge that the Weaver, their ultimate enemy, had been close. The attack, though costly in terms of injured wolves, solidified the fragile alliance between the Moon Petal and Blood Moon packs. They had fought together, bled together, and witnessed the chilling reality of the cult's power. The whispers of the hidden war now became a roar, undeniable and terrifying. The unseen enemy had finally revealed its hand, and the battle for the very soul of their kind had truly begun. Ilara knew, with a chilling certainty, that the path ahead was fraught with danger, demanding sacrifices they could scarcely imagine. But standing beside Rorik, their hands intertwined, she felt a quiet strength, a fierce determination that transcended even the deepest fear. They would face this unseen enemy together, their bond a beacon in the encroaching darkness. The ancient prophecy and the corruption the attack on the joint training exercise, though a brutal awakening, solidified the Moon Petal and Blood Moon Pack's alliance. The shared bloodshed, the chilling sight of wolves fighting their own kind under the influence of the Moon Serpent cult, forged a new, desperate unity. The initial shock and grief for Lyra had transmuted into a burning resolve to dismantle the cult and avenge his sacrifice. Ilara and Rorik, their mate bond now a public, undeniable beacon of their union, stood at the forefront of this nascent resistance. The encounter with the elusive operative, the one Ilara had sensed as tainted ancient, provided a crucial new lead. Rorik, with his deep knowledge of ancient lore, began to piece together fragments of forgotten prophecies. He consulted with his most ancient pack members, those who guarded the oral histories and secret knowledge passed down through generations. What they unearthed was a chilling revelation. The Great Severing Prophecy was not just a cult fabrication, it was a perversion of an ancient true prophecy. The original prophecy, long suppressed and twisted, spoke of a time when the wolf kind would face their greatest challenge, a threat from a forgotten, shape-shifting race known as the Chrysalis, beings who could mimic any form, infiltrate any society, and whose ultimate goal was to absorb the spiritual essence of other species, converting them into a singular, malleable collective. The moon serpent cult was merely a front, a tool employed by the chrysalis to weaken the wolf kind, to sever their connection to the earth and their primal instincts, making them easier to subsume. The wolfsbane was not just a poison, it was a catalyst, preparing their spirits for assimilation. "The Weaver," Rorik explained, his voice grim, as he unrolled an ancient brittle scroll in their secluded cave meeting place. "He is likely a high-ranking chrysalis. Their power lies in deception, in mimicry. They feed on our spiritual energy, absorbing it to increase their own collective consciousness." Ilara shuddered, the implications chilling her to the bone. The idea of their very souls being consumed, their individuality eradicated, was a fate far worse than death. Lyra, in his frantic search for justice, had stumbled upon a threat of existential proportions. His sacrifice now felt even more profound, a desperate warning to a slumbering world. The mate bond between Ilara and Rorik, already strong, deepened with the weight of this terrifying discovery. It was no longer just about personal connection. It was about the survival of their entire species. Their shared intuition, their synchronized movements in battle, their complementary strengths, all pointed to a purpose far greater than themselves. They were the chosen pair, destined not just to be together, but to lead their people through this darkest hour. Their parents, now fully briefed on the true nature of the enemy, threw their full support behind them. Luna Seraphine, with her profound understanding of spiritual healing, began developing countermeasures to the wolfsbane, working with ancient remedies and rituals to cleanse the corrupted ley lines and strengthen the burr. Wolves' spiritual defenses. Beta Lysander, ever the strategist, organized joint patrols and intelligence gathering, ensuring every scrap of information was scrutinized. The chrysalis, with their ability to perfectly mimic wolves, posed an unprecedented challenge. They could be anyone, anywhere. Trust became a precious commodity, hard-won and easily shattered. Ilara and Rorik established a network of highly trusted wolves from both packs, individuals whose loyalty was beyond question, whose senses were keen enough to detect even the slightest anomaly in scent or behavior. One afternoon, during a covert reconnaissance mission, Ilara and Rorik encountered a chrysalis operative disguised as a moon-petal wolf. The mimicry was flawless, the scent perfect, the movements precise. But Ilara, her senses heightened by the mate bond, felt a subtle dissonance, a faint, almost imperceptible tremor in the wolf's aura. Her wolf snarled, a low guttural warning that confirmed her intuition. Rorik reacted instantly, his wolf form a blur of power and precision. The chrysalis, caught off guard, fought with a desperate ferocity, revealing its true nature, a shimmering, formless entity beneath the mimicry, its attacks aimed at draining their spiritual energy. The battle was short but intense. Rorik, with his brute strength, held it at bay while Ilara, guided by a sudden intuitive surge, used a newly discovered ability. Drawing on the ancient power of her ancestors, she projected a wave of pure, concentrated energy, a pulse that resonated with the very essence of wolfkind. The chrysalis shrieked, a piercing sound that was not of this world, its form flickering, destabilizing, before it dissipated into nothingness. The moment of victory was exhilarating, but also terrifying. Ilara had tapped into a power she didn't know she possessed, a dormant ability that felt both ancient and new. It was a power intricately linked to her spiritual connection to the land, and to Rorik, her mate. "What was that?" Rorik asked, his wolf form still bristling with residual tension, his dark eyes wide with awe as he shifted back to his human form. Ilara felt a strange sense of exhaustion, but also exhilaration. "I don't know," she whispered, her voice trembling. "But it banished it. It didn't just kill it, it sent it back to wherever it came from." They realized this was the key. The chrysalis could be defeated, not just with brute force, but with a targeted spiritual attack that disrupted their very essence, their ability to mimic and to absorb. This discovery transformed their strategy. The war was not just about physical battles, it was a spiritual conflict, a battle for the very soul of the wolf kind. The fight against the chrysalis was far from over. They were numerous, insidious, and their leader, the Weaver, remained unseen. But Ilara and Rurik now had a weapon, a glimmer of hope in the encroaching darkness. The mate bond, forged in grief and solidified in shared purpose, had revealed its true power, not just as a bond between two individuals, but as a catalyst for salvation. The future of their kind rested on their shoulders, a heavy, sacred burden that they would bear together, their destinies intertwined, their spirits united against the unseen enemy. The ancestral echoes the revelation of the chrysalis and Ilara's nascent spiritual ability to banish them, fundamentally shifted the nature of the war. It was no longer just a physical struggle for territory and survival, but a metaphysical battle for the very essence of the wolf kind. The moon serpent cult was merely a symptom, a visible manifestation of a deeper, insidious threat. Ilara and Rurik knew their fight was against a race that fed on spiritual energy, that sought to extinguish the unique spark of other beings. Their secret cave meetings now focused on understanding and refining Ilara's burgeoning powers. Rurik, with his deep knowledge of ancient texts and forgotten rituals, guided her, helping her connect with the ancestral echoes that vibrated within her. They discovered that Ilara's ability was tied to a rare lineage within the Moonpetal Pack, a dormant spiritual gift that manifested only when confronted with existential threats to the wolf kind. Lyra, too, had possessed a flicker of this ability, perhaps, explaining his heightened intuition and his relentless pursuit of the cult. He had been unwittingly battling spiritual corruption. The mate bond between Ilara and Rurik deepened further, becoming an almost tangible conduit for their combined energies. Their wolf forms, when they shifted together in the seclusion of the caves, moved with a seamless grace, their scents mingling, their minds flowing into one powerful consciousness. It was a connection that transcended words, a symphony of instincts and emotions that fueled Ilara's spiritual awakening. They also delved deeper into the true purpose of the ancient ley lines that crisscrossed their territories. These were not just energy conduits. They were the very veins of their ancestral lands, carrying the spiritual essence of generations of wolves, connecting them to their primal power and their inherent magic. The chrysalis, by poisoning these lines, sought to sever that connection, to starve the wolves of their lifeblood, leaving them vulnerable and lifeless. Luna's Seraphine, Ilara's mother, became an invaluable resource. Her expertise in spiritual healing, honed over decades of tending to the pack's spiritual well-being, now took on a new, urgent dimension. She taught Ilara ancient meditative techniques, guiding her to tap into the wellspring of ancestral power within her. She recognized the echoes of her own distant ancestors in Ilara's abilities, a sacred gift passed down through generations, now awakened by the dire need of their kind. Beta Lysander, ever the pragmatist, worked tirelessly to fortify their pack's physical defenses, training the warriors in new combat strategies designed to combat the chrysalis's mimicry. He established a rigorous vetting process for new recruits, relying on his keen instincts and the heightened senses of trusted pack members to detect any subtle discrepancies. The threat of infiltration was constant, forcing them into a state of perpetual vigilance. The chrysalis, meanwhile, grew bolder. Isolated attacks on smaller packs, whispers of entire territories falling silent, sent shivers of dread through the wolf kind. The weaver, their enigmatic leader, remained a ghost, his presence felt but never seen, his influence spreading like a dark, creeping shadow. The ancient prophecy spoke of the weaver as a being of immense, corrupted spiritual power, capable of controlling the very flow of life energy. One moonlit night, as Ilara and Rorik practiced spiritual shielding in their hidden cave, a subtle disturbance rippled through the ley lines. It was a faint, almost imperceptible tremor, but it resonated with Ilara's newly awakened senses. "They're consolidating their power," she whispered, her eyes wide. "They're activating something ancient." Rorik's wolf bristled, his senses on high alert. "Where?" Ilara closed her eyes, focusing her spiritual energy, allowing the ley lines to guide her. The image formed in her mind. A nexus point deep within the forbidden territory, a place known as the Shadowed Nexus, an ancient site rumored to be a conduit for immense spiritual power. It was here, the prophecy warned, that the great severing would truly begin. "The Shadowed Nexus," she breathed, her voice filled with dread. "They're going there. The weaver, he's going to activate it." The Shadowed Nexus was a place steeped in ancient magic, a site both revered and feared by the wolf kind. It was rumored to be the birthplace of their primal energy, a place where the veil between worlds was thin. If the chrysalis could corrupt it, if the weaver could harness its power, the consequences would be catastrophic. It would not just be the subjugation of their kind, it would be the eradication of their very essence, a spiritual death from which there would be no return. The urgency was palpable. They had to stop the weaver. They had to prevent the great severing. But the Shadowed Nexus was treacherous, guarded by unseen forces, and now, likely teeming with chrysalis operatives. The mate bond, usually a source of comfort, now pulsed with a terrifying intensity, a shared fear for their kind, for their future. Lyra's sacrifice, his desperate search for this truth, echoed in their minds, fueling their resolve. This was the battle he had unknowingly prepared them for, the culmination of his desperate struggle. Ilara and Rorik knew this would be their final confrontation, a desperate gambit that would determine the fate of all wolfkind. They gathered their most trusted warriors, a small, elite force of Moonpetal and Blood Moon wolves, their faces grim, their loyalty unwavering. As they stood on the precipice of this final battle, their hands intertwined, a silent promise passed between Ilara and Rorik. They would face this ancient evil together, their combined strength, their intertwined destinies, their love, a beacon against the encroaching darkness. The echoes of their ancestors whispered encouragement, urging them forward towards the climactic confrontation that would either secure their future or plunge their world into eternal shadow. The Nexus of Destiny. The journey to the Shadowed Nexus was cloaked in a chilling silence, broken only by the stealthy movements of Ilara and Rorik's elite pack of warriors. The Moonpetal and Blood Moon wolves moved as one, their senses heightened, their resolve hardened by the knowledge of the existential threat they faced. The air grew heavy with a primal energy as they neared the ancient site, a palpable hum that vibrated through Ilara's very bones. The mate bond with Rorik pulsed with an almost painful intensity, amplifying her burgeoning spiritual abilities, preparing her for the ultimate confrontation. The Shadowed Nexus was even more ominous than the ancient legends described. A colossal, jagged rock formation, worn smooth by eons, rose from the earth like a skeletal hand clawing at the sky. Ancient, unfamiliar symbols glowed with a faint, malevolent light, humming with corrupted energy. The air was thick with the cloying scent of concentrated wolfsbane, an aroma that stung Ilara's nostrils and made her wolf snarl in protest. The ground itself felt cold, lifeless, as if its very essence had been leached away. As they approached, a dark, shimmering veil of energy pulsed around the nexus, a protective barrier woven from corrupted spiritual power. Within its depths, Ilara could sense the presence of countless chrysalises, their mimicry a shimmering distortion, their true forms shifting and writhing in the gloom. And at the heart of it all, a focal point of immense, suffocating power, was the Weaver. He was a figure of pure shadow, almost formless, yet radiating an oppressive presence that stole the breath from Ilara's lungs. His true form, a chilling distortion of light and void, pulsed with an ancient, malevolent power. His movements were fluid, ethereal, as if he existed on a different plane. The great severing, the culmination of his insidious plan, was already underway. Wisps of dark energy, like insidious tendrils, snaked from the nexus, reaching out to pollute the sacred ley lines, slowly draining the wolf-kind of their lifeblood. Rorik, sensing the immediate danger, took the lead, his wolf form a magnificent blur of power and ferocity. He slammed into the shimmering barrier, his immense strength testing its limits, his snarls echoing through the ancient rocks. His warriors, a wave of silver and shadow, followed suit, launching a coordinated attack, their claws tearing at the ethereal shield, their howls a defiance against the encroaching darkness. Ilara, guided by Rorik's unwavering presence and her own burgeoning spiritual intuition, focused her energy. She realized that brute force alone would not breach the barrier. It required a resonance, a spiritual counterattack. Drawing on the ancestral echoes within her, on Luna Seraphine's teachings, and most profoundly, on the raw power of her mate bond with Rorik, she projected a wave of pure golden energy. It was a song of creation, a pulse of life energy that clashed violently with the cult's corrupting power. The shimmering veil flickered, groaned, and then, with a deafening crack, shattered, dissipating into nothingness. The moment the barrier fell, the true scale of the battle revealed itself. Hordes of chrysalises, disguised as wolves, poured from the shadows. Their eyes dull, their movements unnatural. Their attacks aimed at spiritual absorption rather than physical harm. They were an army of empty vessels, tools for the Weaver's ultimate goal. Rorik roared, his voice shaking the very ground, and charged into the fray, a whirlwind of teeth and claws. His warriors, now unfettered, engaged the enemy with a savage precision, their instincts razor-sharp. Ilara, however, knew her true purpose. While Rorik and the warriors held the line, she had to reach the Weaver. She moved with a newfound agility, her senses acutely aware of every subtle shift in the battle, every flicker of chrysalis energy. She'd bypassed the physical clashes, weaving through the chaos, her focus solely on the dark, formless figure at the heart of the nexus. The mate bond pulled her forward, a powerful magnetic force drawing her inexorably towards her destiny. As she drew closer to the Weaver, the oppressive spiritual energy intensified, pressing down on her, threatening to overwhelm her. Lyra's scent, a phantom whisper of pine and damp earth, drifted past her, a ghostly encouragement. He was here, in spirit, urging her on, reminding her of the truth he had died to expose. The Weaver turned, its form coalescing slightly, revealing two eyes that burned with an ancient, terrifying malevolence. It extended a shadowy tendril, aiming to absorb her spiritual essence, to extinguish her light. But Ilara was ready. She channeled the full force of her spiritual energy, the combined power of her ancestral lineage and the potent bond with Rorik, and unleashed a torrent of golden light. The weaver shrieked, a sound that ripped through the very fabric of reality, a sound of pure agony and rage. Its shadowy form flickered, destabilized, unable to withstand the pure, uncorrupted spiritual energy. It roared, then began to unravel, its essence dissipating, its power dissolving back into the void from which it came. The ancient symbols on the nexus, which had pulsed with malevolent light, now glowed with a pure, vibrant energy, pulsating with renewed life. The ley lines, once corrupted, began to sing, their ancient song of vitality and connection filling the air. As the weaver vanished, the remaining chrysalis operatives, their spiritual connections severed, collapsed, their mimicry failing, their forms dissolving into shimmering dust. The battle ended as swiftly as it had begun, leaving behind a silence so profound, it seemed to echo through the very air. Rorik reached her, his wolf form shifting back to human, his face etched with concern, relief, and an overwhelming sense of pride. He pulled her into his arms, holding her tightly, his scent, now pure and grounding, enveloping her. The mate bond hummed, a deep, resonant harmony of triumph and exhaustion. "You did it, Ilara," he whispered, his voice thick with emotion. "You saved us all." Ilara leaned into his embrace, tears finally streaming down her face. Tears of exhaustion, of relief, of a profound, aching sorrow for Lyra, but also tears of love, of hope, of a future hard one. The truth, brutal and devastating, had led them here, to this moment of ultimate victory. The bond that had once seemed a cruel torment had become their greatest strength. Lyra's sacrifice, once a source of endless pain, now resonated with a deeper meaning, a purpose that transcended even death. They had not just avenged him, they had honored him by ensuring the survival of their kind, by choosing love over vengeance, and by forging a destiny far grander than either of them could have imagined. The war was over, but their journey, their shared future, had just begun. The dawn of a new era, the aftermath of the battle at the shadowed nexus, was a period of profound recovery and unprecedented unity. The defeat of the Weaver and the dissolution of the chrysalis cult sent ripples of relief and hope across the wolfkind. The ley lines, cleansed of their corruption, pulsed with renewed vitality, invigorating the packs, healing the spiritual wounds inflicted by the cult. The wolves who had been influenced by the weakened wolfsbane slowly began to regain their full senses, their primal instincts reawakening, their connection to their wolf forms strengthening. Ilara and Rorik, now revered as the saviors of their kind, stood at the forefront of this new era. Their mate bond, once a closely guarded secret and a source of inner turmoil, was now celebrated as a symbol of unity, a living testament to the power of overcoming historical animosities and finding common nodder ground in the face of existential threat. The Moonpetal and Blood Moon packs, once cautious rivals, began to truly merge, their warriors training together, their elders consulting, their traditions blending into a richer, stronger tapestry. The first official joint council of the United Packs was held at the Shadowed Nexus, now cleansed and revitalized. The ancient rock formation, once an ominous symbol of corruption, now radiated a pure, vibrant energy, a beacon of hope and renewal. Leaders from various packs, some who had traveled for weeks, gathered, their faces etched with relief and admiration. They listened intently as Ilara and Rorik recounted the story of the chrysalis, the true nature of their insidious threat, and Lyra's pivotal role in uncovering the conspiracy. Ilara spoke of Lyra, her voice filled with a profound sorrow, but also a fierce pride. She detailed his relentless pursuit of the truth, his reckless courage, his ultimate sacrifice. The Moonpetal elders, their faces wet with tears, finally understood the full scope of his heroism. Rorik, his hand resting reassuringly on Ilara's shoulder, spoke of the agonizing choice he had been forced to make, the pain of ending a life, even in defense of his pack. He spoke of Lyra's bravery, his unwavering dedication, and the respect he had gained for the young warrior who had inadvertently sparked their awakening. The forgiveness, unspoken yet palpable, flowed between the Moonpetal and Blood Moon packs, a healing balm over old wounds. With the immediate threat vanquished, Ilara and Rorik turned their attention to rebuilding and strengthening their united community. Luna Seraphine, with her spiritual wisdom, led initiatives to restore the ley lines across all affected territories, guiding rituals that infused the land with renewed life force. Beta Lysanda oversaw the establishment of joint security protocols, ensuring that no similar threat could ever infiltrate their ranks again. The former traitors, Silas and Kale, having confessed their involvement under the cult's influence, were given a choice: to face traditional justice, or to dedicate their lives to cleansing the corrupted land. Working tirelessly to undo the damage they had inadvertently caused. Many chose the latter, their acts of penance a testament to the cult's destructive power. The love between Ilara and Rorik blossomed in the fertile ground of their shared purpose. Their mate bond, once a source of agonizing conflict, was now a constant wellspring of strength, comfort, and undeniable joy. They spent their evenings in the silence of their shared chambers, discussing the day's challenges, sharing their hopes for the future, their hands intertwined, their souls entwined. The scent of Rorik, earthy and grounding, became Ilara's ultimate sanctuary, a constant reminder of the profound connection they shared. They decided to merge their packs, not just as an alliance, but as a single, unified entity, the Moonblood Pack. It was a bold, unprecedented move, symbolizing a new era of cooperation and understanding. Ilara and Rorik became its co-alphas, their combined strengths creating a balanced, formidable leadership. Ilara, with her intuitive wisdom and spiritual gifts, brought empathy and foresight. Rorik, with his strategic mind and unwavering resolve, provided stability and protection. Together, they embodied the duality of their combined packs, the grace of the Moonpetal, the strength of the Blood Moon. The scars of the past, though present, no longer defined them. The memory of Lyra, once a source of raw agony, became a guiding light, a poignant reminder of the truth that had brought them together. Ilara often visited the clearing where he had fallen, no longer with anger, but with a quiet reverence, sharing her triumphs, seeking his silent approval. She felt his presence, a gentle whisper in the wind, a silent acknowledgement of their shared journey. The future of the Moonblood Pack was bright, filled with the promise of unity and strength. They established new protocols for interpack relations, fostering open communication and mutual aid. They focused on spiritual growth, connecting with their ancient heritage, ensuring that their defenses against any future threats were not just physical, but deeply spiritual. One moonlit night, as Ilara and Rorik stood at the highest point of the shadowed nexus, looking out over their vast, unified territory, Rorik wrapped his arms around her, pulling her close. The air was crisp, carrying the scent of pine, fresh earth, and the undeniable magic of a world reborn. "We did it, Ilara," he murmured, his voice husky with emotion. "We saved our people. We honored Lyra." Ilara leaned into his embrace, her heart overflowing. "We did it together, Rorik, because of the bond." He turned her to face him, his dark eyes shimmering with a love that transcended pain, sorrow, and even death. "The bond that started with a tragedy," he said, his thumb gently caressing her cheek, "and led us to a destiny beyond our wildest dreams." Their lips met under the vast, star-strewn sky, a kiss that sealed their past, celebrated their present, and promised an infinite future. The Alpha, her mate, who had once been her brother's killer, was now her life, her love, her other half. The truth, complex and devastating, had led them not to vengeance, but to a profound, enduring love and the dawn of a new, unified era for all wolfkind. The fragile peace established after the defeat of the Chrysalis and the unification of the Moonpetal and Blood Moon packs into the Moonblood pack was a testament to Ilara and Rorik's leadership. However, the whispers of ancient threats, the lingering fear of unknown enemies, meant that vigilance could never truly cease. Their days were a delicate balance of strengthening their new pack and preparing for whatever might emerge from the shadows. The burden of leadership, Ilara found herself embracing the role of co-alpha with a strength she never knew she possessed. The spiritual gifts that had awakened within her at the shadowed nexus continued to grow, offering her deeper insights into the subtle energies of the land and the emotional currents within her pack. She could sense the lingering anxieties among the former Moonpetal wolves, the quiet pride of the Blood Moon warriors as they adapted to a unified command. It was a daunting responsibility, guiding two distinct cultures into a harmonious future, but with Rorik by her side, the task felt less overwhelming. Rorik, ever the pragmatist and strategist, focused on the logistical challenges of merging the packs. New patrol routes were established, ensuring seamless coverage of their now expanded territory. Training regimens were standardized, blending the agile techniques of the Moonpetal with the brute force of the Blood Moon. He worked tirelessly to dismantle the last vestiges of the cult's influence, sending out trusted teams to cleanse corrupted ley lines and ensuring that no lingering traces of poisoned wolfsbane remained. His unwavering presence, his firm but fair hand, instilled confidence in their unified pack. Their shared chambers within the newly expanded Alpha's den, at the heart of their combined territories, became their sanctuary. Here, amidst the maps and strategic scrolls, amidst the hushed discussions of pack politics and security, their bond deepened further. The physical intimacy, once a passionate expression of their undeniable connection, now settled into a comfortable, profound closeness. The scent of Rorik, an anchoring blend of pine and damp earth, was Ilara's constant comfort, a silent promise of his presence. They often spoke of Lyra, his memory a bittersweet thread woven into the fabric of their lives. Ilara found solace in talking about him, sharing anecdotes of his mischievous spirit and his fierce loyalty. Rorik in turn spoke of his regret, of the painful choice he had been forced to make, but always with a quiet understanding of Lyra's bravery. His passing, once a gaping wound, had slowly become a powerful reminder of the preciousness of life and the importance of truth. Whispers of the past, even with the immediate threat gone, the experience of facing the Chrysalis had profoundly altered their understanding of their world. They realized that the true history of the wolfkind was far more complex than the tales passed down through generations. Ancient prophecies, once dismissed as mere folklore, now held chilling relevance. They began to suspect that the Chrysalis was not an isolated incident, but part of a cyclical struggle, a pattern of threats that had resurfaced throughout history. Ilara, guided by her spiritual gifts, felt a pull towards the most ancient, untouched parts of their territory. She and Rorik ventured deep into forgotten caves, exploring ruins hinted at in Lyra's journal, places where the veil between their world and the spiritual realm felt thin. They discovered intricate carvings on cave walls, depictions of wolf-like beings battling shadowy figures, symbols of forgotten powers and long-lost wisdom. These carvings resonated with Ilara's spiritual senses, offering glimpses into a past more epic and dangerous than they had ever imagined. They uncovered evidence of previous conflicts with the chrysalis, past attempts by the parasitic entities to infiltrate and subsume the wolf kind. Each time, the wolves had managed to push them back, but at a great cost. The ancient wolves, through their spiritual connection to the land and their innate magic, had developed unique defenses, abilities that had been slowly forgotten over the millennia. Ilara's awakened powers, they realized, were not entirely new, but a reemergence of these ancient defenses, triggered by the profound danger their species had faced. Rorik, with his deep knowledge of historical texts and a fierce intellectual curiosity, pored over fragmented scrolls found in hidden compartments within the Moonblood Alpha's den. He found cryptic references to guardians of the ley lines, individuals whose spiritual essence was intricately linked to the flow of ancient energy and who were tasked with protecting these vital conduits from corruption. It became clear that Ilara's role transcended that of an alpha. She was a guardian, destined to safeguard the spiritual heart of their kind. This discovery brought a new sense of purpose, but also a heavier burden. They were not just leaders. They were custodians of an ancient legacy, entrusted with defending their people against threats that transcended the physical realm. The future demanded not just strength and strategy, but a deep connection to their spiritual roots, a rediscovery of the magic that lay dormant within their species. The future-forged months bled into a year. The Moonblood Pack flourished under Ilara and Rorik's joint leadership. The animosities between the former Moonpetal and Blood Moon wolves faded, replaced by a genuine sense of camaraderie and shared identity. New pups, born into this era of unity, carried the combined sense of both ancestral lines, embodying the promise of a brighter future. Ilara, now fully embracing her role as a guardian, spent her days strengthening her spiritual abilities, guiding others in meditative practices that reconnected them to the ley lines, and fostering a deeper appreciation for the ancient magic that flowed through their lands. She taught them to sense the subtle shifts in spiritual energy, to recognize the early signs of corruption, to be vigilant against threats both seen and unseen. Roar continued to strengthen the physical defenses of the pack, implementing advanced training techniques and establishing a sophisticated intelligence network to monitor any lingering whispers of rogue chrysalis or other unforeseen dangers. He proved to be not just a formidable warrior, but a wise and compassionate alpha, revered by his pack for his unwavering dedication and his profound love for Ilara. Their bond, a complex tapestry woven with threads of pain, forgiveness, love, and shared purpose, grew deeper with each passing day. It was a bond that had defied tragedy, overcome bitterness, and emerged stronger for the trials it had endured. They found solace in each other's presence, their quiet moments together a sanctuary from the demands of leadership. The constant hum of their mate bond was a silent affirmation of their intertwined destinies, a testament to the fact that even from the deepest sorrow, a profound and enduring love could bloom. One crisp autumn evening, as the leaves turned to fiery hues and the air carried the scent of wood smoke, Ilara and Rorik stood atop the highest ridge overlooking their vast, unified territory. The Moonblood pack howled below, a symphony of unified voices, a sound that resonated with the very heart of their ancient lands. "We built this, Rorik," Ilara whispered, her voice filled with quiet awe. "From pain, we built hope." Rorik wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close. His gaze swept over the thriving pack, the bustling dens, the playful pups. "Not just built, Ilara," he murmured, his voice husky. "We are it, our bond, our history, our future. It's all intertwined." He turned to her, his dark eyes shimmering with a love that spoke of ancient promises and unwavering devotion. "Lyra would be proud," he said, his voice soft. "He opened our eyes. He gave us a chance to truly see." Ilara nodded, a tear tracing a path down her cheek. A tear of gratitude, of love, and of a peace she never thought possible. The pain of Lyra's loss would always be a part of her, a poignant echo in her heart, but it no longer consumed her. It had become a foundation, a reminder of the strength born from sorrow. "And we found each other," she said, her voice filled with a profound tenderness. "In the most unexpected and most painful way." Their lips met under the vast, star-strewn sky, a kiss of quiet triumph, of enduring love, and of a future meticulously forged from the ashes of the past. The Alpha, her mate, who had once been her brother's killer, was now the unwavering anchor of her soul, the other half of her destiny. The intricate tapestry of their lives, woven with threads of truth, betrayal, and an unbreakable bond, was complete. The Moonblood pack, unified and strong, stood ready for whatever the future might hold, their strength flowing from the very heart of their leaders, two souls intertwined, forever bound by love, truth, and the enduring spirit of their kind. The unity of the Moonblood pack, forged in the fires of conflict and sealed by the mate bond between Ilara and Rorik, was a hard-won peace. Yet, the echoes of the Chrysalis War lingered, a subtle tremor beneath the surface of their new reality. They knew vigilance was paramount, that the peace they enjoyed was not a static state, but a dynamic balance constantly requiring their attention. The evolution of leadership, Ilara found her intuitive gifts expanding, not just in sensing the spiritual energies of the land, but in perceiving the subtle emotional currents within the pack. She could discern the lingering anxieties from the Moonpetal wolves, who had carried the burden of Silas's betrayal, and the quiet pride of the Blood Moon warriors, still adapting to a unified command. This sensitivity made her an empathetic alpha, one who led with understanding and compassion, a stark contrast to the more traditional, often rigid, leadership styles of the past. Her mornings often began with solitary meditations at the revitalized shadowed nexus, drawing strength from the purified ley lines, preparing her spirit for the demands of the day. The ancient stone structure, once cold and foreboding, now hummed with a vibrant, life-giving energy that resonated with her very core. Rorik, the quintessential alpha, found his own leadership style evolving. While still prioritizing discipline and strategic prowess, he embraced the softer, more collaborative approach that Ilara embodied. He learned to trust her instincts implicitly, recognizing that her spiritual insights offered a crucial dimension to their decision-making. He organized joint patrols, blending Moonpetal agility with Blood Moon strength, turning their previously disparate fighting styles into a cohesive, formidable defense. He personally oversaw the complete eradication of any lingering traces of the wolfsbane-laced corruption, working alongside pack healers to ensure the land and its inhabitants were fully cleansed. His unwavering presence, his firm but fair hand, instilled a quiet confidence in their unified pack, dispelling any remaining doubts about the strength of their new combined identity. Their shared chambers within the Alpha's den became the epicenter of their new reality. It was here, surrounded by maps charting their expanded territory and scrolls detailing ancient prophecies, that their bond deepened beyond passion into a profound, unshakable partnership. Their love was a quiet, steady flame, fueled by mutual respect and a shared burden of responsibility. Rorik's scent, an anchoring blend of rich earth and crisp pine, became Ilara's constant source of comfort, a silent promise of his unwavering presence. They often ended their days curled together, discussing pack matters in hushed tones, the weight of their duties lessened by the simple act of being together. The memory of Lyra, once a source of raw, unyielding agony, had transformed into a poignant guiding light. Ilara found solace in speaking of him, sharing anecdotes of his irreverent humor and fierce loyalty. Rorik, in turn, acknowledged the profound impact Lyra's relentless pursuit of truth had on their lives, often remarking on the courage it took for a lone wolf to uncover such a vast conspiracy. Lyra's absence was still a ache, a phantom limb of her soul, but it was now a foundation for their combined strength, the testament to the fact that even from the deepest sorrow, a profound and enduring love could bloom. The echoes of ancient lore, the confrontation with the chrysalis had irrevocably altered their understanding of their world. The ancient prophecies, once relegated to the realm of myth, now held chilling relevance. They realized that the chrysalis was not an isolated incident, but part of a larger, cyclical struggle, a pattern of primordial threats that had resurfaced throughout the eons. This realization fueled their quest to unearth forgotten knowledge, to prepare their pack for future dangers they could barely conceive. Ilara, guided by her evolving spiritual gifts, felt an irresistible pull towards the most untouched, sacred parts of their expanded territory. Together with Rorik, she ventured deep into ancient, unmapped cave systems, exploring ruins whispered about in Lyra's fragmented journal entries. These were places where the veil between their physical world and the spiritual realm was thin, vibrating with a raw, primal energy. Within these hidden sanctums, they discovered intricate pictograms etched into cave walls, depicting wolf-like beings battling shadowy, shifting figures, undeniable evidence of past conflicts with the chrysalis. These ancient carvings resonated deeply with Ilara's spiritual senses, offering fragmented glimpses into a past more epic and dangerous than they had ever imagined, a history of which their current legends only scratched the surface. They uncovered further evidence of previous skirmishes with the chrysalis, detailed accounts of past attempts by these parasitic entities to infiltrate and subsume the wolf kind. Each time, the wolves had managed to repel them, but at an immense cost, often nearly wiping out entire packs. The ancient wolves, through their profound spiritual connection to the land and their innate magic, had developed sophisticated defenses, abilities that had slowly faded from collective memory over countless millennia. Ilara's awakened powers, they realized, were not a novel phenomenon, but a re-emergence of these very ancient defenses, lying dormant within her lineage, triggered by the profound existential danger their species had recently faced. This knowledge, though empowering, also carried a heavy weight, a direct link to the triumphs and tragedies of their ancestors. Rorik, with his deep intellectual curiosity and an insatiable hunger for knowledge, pored over every available fragmented scroll found in hidden compartments within the Moonblood Alpha's den. He unearthed cryptic references to guardians of the ley lines, individuals whose spiritual essence was intrinsically linked to the delicate flow of ancient energy that permeated their lands. These guardians, it seemed, were tasked with the sacred duty of protecting these vital conduits from any form of corruption, spiritual or physical. It became clear that Ilara's role transcended that of an alpha. She was a guardian, destined to safeguard the spiritual heart of their entire kind, a living bridge between the ancient magic and their modern existence. This groundbreaking discovery brought a new sense of profound purpose to Ilara's life, but also a heavier burden. They were no longer just leaders of a pack, they were custodians of an ancient legacy, entrusted with defending their people against threats that transcended the physical realm, threats that lurked in the very fabric of reality. The future, they understood, demanded not just physical strength and strategic brilliance, but a deep, unwavering connection to their spiritual roots, a conscious rediscovery of the potent magic that lay dormant within their species. Their bond, now solidified beyond measure, served as a conduit for this newfound understanding, their intertwined destinies reflecting the very unity they sought to bring to their people. The seeds of renewal months bled into a year, then two, marked by a blossoming sense of peace and prosperity within the Moonblood pack. The initial apprehension and distrust between the former Moonpetal and Blood Moon wolves dissolved, replaced by a genuine sense of camaraderie and a shared proud identity. New pups, born into this era of unprecedented unity, carried the combined sense of both ancestral lines, embodying the promise of a brighter, more integrated future. Their playful yips echoed through the den, a joyous counterpoint to the deep, resonant hum of the revitalized ley lines that now pulsed with renewed life. Ilara, now fully embodying her role as a guardian, devoted her days to strengthening her spiritual abilities. She guided regular meditative practices for the entire pack, helping them to reconnect with the ley lines, fostering a deeper appreciation for the ancient magic that flowed through their lands. She taught them to sense the subtle shifts in spiritual energy, to recognize the early warning signs of corruption, to be vigilant against threats both seen and unseen. Her calm demeanor and profound insights inspired a new generation of spiritual seekers within the pack, ensuring that the knowledge she had rediscovered would not be lost again. She established sacred groves for meditation and healing, places where wolves could commune with the ancestral spirits and draw solace from the earth's timeless wisdom. Rorik, meanwhile, continued to strengthen the physical defenses of the pack. He implemented advanced training techniques, incorporating lessons learned from their battle with the chrysalis, focusing on agility and spiritual awareness as much as brute strength. He established a sophisticated intelligence network, extending far beyond their borders, to monitor any lingering whispers of rogue chrysalis or other unforeseen dangers. He proved to be not just a formidable warrior, but a wise and compassionate alpha, revered by his pack for his unwavering dedication and his profound love for Ilara. His presence was a pillar of strength, his decisions measured and just, earning him the absolute loyalty of every wolf under his command. Their bond, a complex tapestry woven with threads of pain, forgiveness, love, and shared purpose, grew deeper and more intricate with each passing day. It was a bond that had defied tragedy, overcome bitterness, and emerged stronger for the trials it had endured. They found solace in each other's presence, their quiet moments together a sanctuary from the demands of leadership. The constant hum of their mate bond was a silent affirmation of their intertwined destinies, a testament to the fact that even from the deepest sorrow, a profound and enduring love could bloom. They often walked the perimeter of their territory in their wolf forms, their paws moving in silent synchronicity, their minds connected in a timeless communion, their combined aura radiating a protective warmth over their Lands. One crisp autumn evening, as the leaves turned to fiery hues of crimson and gold, and the air carried the comforting scent of wood smoke from the pack dens, Ilara and Rorik stood atop the highest ridge overlooking their vast, unified territory. The Moonblood pack howled below, a powerful symphony of unified voices, a sound that resonated with the very heart of their ancient lands, a sound of strength and contentment. The sight of their thriving community, a beacon of peace in a world still grappling with unseen threats, filled them with a profound sense of accomplishment. "We built this, Rorik," Ilara whispered, her voice filled with quiet awe, her gaze sweeping over the bustling dens, the playful pups, the warriors returning from patrol. "From pain, we built hope. From division, unity." Rorik wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close, inhaling the comforting scent of her hair. His gaze, usually stern, was softened by a deep, unwavering affection as he looked out at their flourishing pack. "Not just built, Ilara," he murmured, his voice husky with emotion. "We are it. Our bond, our history, our future. It's all intertwined, every scar, every quiet moment." He turned to her, his dark eyes shimmering with a love that spoke of ancient promises and unwavering devotion, a love that transcended the brutality of their past and embraced the boundless possibilities of their future. "Lyra would be proud," he said, his voice soft, a hint of poignant remembrance in his tone. He opened our eyes. He gave us a chance to truly see the insidious nature of the darkness. He set us on this path. Ilara nodded, a tear tracing a path down her cheek, a tear of gratitude, of love, and of a profound peace she never thought possible. The pain of Lyra's loss would forever be a part of her, a poignant echo in the chambers of her heart, a constant reminder of the journey that had brought her here. But it no longer consumed her. It had become a foundation, a wellspring of strength born from sorrow, a testament to the enduring power of forgiveness. "And we found each other," she said, her voice filled with a profound tenderness, her hand reaching up to cup his jaw, her fingers tracing the rough stubble. "In the most unexpected and most painful way. Our fates intertwined by tragedy, woven together by a love that defied all odds. Their lips met under the vast, star-strewn sky, a kiss of quiet triumph, of enduring love, and of a future meticulously forged from the ashes of the past. The Alpha, her mate, who had once been her twin brother's killer, was now the unwavering anchor of her soul, the other half of her destiny, the very essence of her world. The intricate tapestry of their lives, woven with threads of truth, betrayal, and an unbreakable bond, was complete. The Moonblood pack, unified and strong, stood ready for whatever the future might hold, their strength flowing from the very heart of their leaders, two souls intertwined, forever bound by love, truth, and the enduring spirit of their kind. The ancient wind whispered through the pines, carrying their story into the vastness of time, a legend born of sorrow and transformed by an extraordinary love. The scent of thriving wolfkind filled the night, a symphony of life and belonging. Seeds of the future as the seasons turned, the Moonblood pack continued to flourish under the unified leadership of Ilara and Rorik. The scars of the past, while acknowledged, no longer dictated their present. Instead, they served as constant reminders of the strength forged in adversity. The initial joint councils evolved into a truly cohesive governance, blending Moonpetal's democratic leanings with Bloodmoon's structured efficiency. Debates were passionate, often lengthy, but always concluded with decisions that served the greater good of the entire pack. Ilara's spiritual gifts deepened, her connection to the ley lines becoming almost seamless. She could detect the subtle ripples in the spiritual fabric of their territory, discerning imbalances or potential threats long before they manifested physically. She established a network of spiritual guides across the allied packs, teaching them how to cleanse minor corruptions in their local ley lines, and how to identify the insidious signature of the chrysalis should they ever resurface. These were not just healers, but sentinels, extending Ilara's spiritual awareness across their vast, unified lands. Her meditations grew longer, more profound, sometimes bordering on trance, like states where she communed directly with the ancestral spirits, drawing on their ancient wisdom to guide their path forward. The whispers of the old ones, once faint, now resonated clearly in her mind, offering solace and direction. Rorik, meanwhile, cultivated an intelligence network that reached far beyond their borders, establishing contact with other, more distant wolf packs. He shared the harrowing tale of the chrysalis, warning them of the insidious nature of the threat, and offering the Moonbloods' expertise in combating spiritual warfare. Some packs were skeptical, clinging to old rivalries and superstitions, but many, having faced their own mysterious illnesses or strange disappearances, listened intently, recognizing the ring of truth in Rorik's grim warnings. He trained specialized scout teams, whose heightened senses and tactical skills were honed to detect the subtle mimicry of the chrysalis, to track their ethereal signature, and to respond with swift, decisive force. His strategic mind, once focused solely on his own pack's defense, now encompassed the survival of all wolfkind. The den hummed with life, a microcosm of their thriving community. Pups, a new generation born into a world of unity, romped freely, their innocent yips and playful snarls echoing through the communal spaces. They carried the mixed scents of both moon petal and blood moon lines, their fur a spectrum of colors, their eyes a mosaic of hues, embodying the true integration of their heritage. Ilara and Rorik fostered an environment of open communication and mutual respect, ensuring that the divisions of the past would never take root in the hearts of their young. They organized storytelling sessions, where elders from both former packs shared their histories, their traditions, their triumphs, and their sorrows, weaving a single, unbroken narrative for the younger generation. Their personal bond continued to deepen, growing into a comfortable, profound love that transcended any need for grand gestures. It was in the quiet moments that their connection truly shone. The shared glance across a crowded council meeting, the comforting brush of a hand as they walked the moonlit trails, the silent understanding that passed between them, without words. Rorik's scent, an earthy blend of pine and damp soil, had become Ilara's anchor, a constant, reassuring presence that grounded her even as her spiritual senses expanded. Their shared laughter, often provoked by the playful antics of the pups, filled their chambers, a joyful melody after the silent years of grief. The memory of Lyra, though still poignant, no longer cast a shadow over their lives. Instead, he had become a revered ancestor, his bravery celebrated, his intuitive foresight acknowledged as crucial to their survival. Ilara often visited the ancient clearing where he had fallen, not with sorrow, but with a quiet sense of communion, sharing her triumphs, seeking his silent blessings. She felt his presence not as a ghost, but as a living part of her own spirit, a gentle whisper in the wind, a silent encouragement. One crisp autumn morning, as the leaves painted the forest in fiery hues, Ilara and Rorik stood at the very heart of the shadowed nexus, a place that now thrummed with pure, uncorrupted energy. It had become a spiritual hub for their pack, a place of healing and renewal. Ilara placed her hand on the ancient stone, feeling the vibrant hum beneath her palm. "The ley lines are stronger than ever," she murmured, a sense of profound contentment settling over her. "The land is healing. The pack is flourishing." Rorik wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close, his chin resting gently on her head. "And we are stronger," he said, his voice a low rumble. Together, every step of the way. His gaze swept over the rejuvenated landscape, a silent testament to their efforts. "The past tried to break us, Ilara, but it only made us unbreakable." He turned her to face him, his dark eyes filled with a love that spoke of ancient promises and an unwavering future. "Our story, Lyra's story, it's not just a memory. It's the foundation of everything we've built. A reminder that truth, however painful, always leads to light." Their lips met, a kiss not of desperation or sorrow, but of quiet triumph, of enduring love, and of a future meticulously forged from the ashes of the past. The Alpha, her mate, who had once been her brother's killer, was now her life, her love, her other half, the very essence of her world. The intricate tapestry of their lives, woven with threads of truth, betrayal, and an unbreakable bond, continued to unfold. The Moonblood Pack, unified and strong, stood as a beacon of resilience, their strength flowing from the very heart of their leaders, two souls intertwined, forever bound by love, truth, and the enduring spirit of their kind. The ancient wind whispered through the pines, carrying their story into the vastness of time, a legend born of sorrow and transformed by an extraordinary love, a testament to the power of unity and the unyielding hope that bloomed even in the darkest of times. The unfolding tapestry years turned into a decade, and the Moonblood Pack blossomed into a beacon of stability and progress amongst the wolfkind. Ilara and Rorik's co-leadership became a legend, their unique blend of spiritual wisdom and tactical strength a model for others. The integration of the former Moonpetal and Blood Moon traditions was complete, creating a rich, vibrant culture that honored both their heritage and their shared future. The den expanded, new structures rising with elegant curves of carved timber and sturdy stone, reflecting the combined aesthetics of their ancestral lands. Ilara's connection to the spiritual realm grew so profound that she could perceive the emotional echoes of the land itself, sensing its joy, its tranquility, and the rare, fleeting whispers of residual sorrow from past conflicts. She initiated annual pack-wide ceremonies at the Shadowed Nexus, not just for healing, but for collective spiritual growth, strengthening the pack's communal bond with the ley lines. These ceremonies were joyous affairs, filled with singing, dancing, and shared feasting, a stark contrast to the grim, desperate visits of the past. She worked closely with Luna Seraphine, her mother, who was now a venerable elder, to document their spiritual practices and develop curricula for the young, ensuring that their ancestral knowledge would be passed down securely through generations. Rorik, with his deep understanding of interpack politics and a seemingly inexhaustible well of strategic foresight, continued to forge alliances across the continent. He established a network of intelligence gatherers, skilled in both physical reconnaissance and the detection of spiritual anomalies. He knew the Chrysalis were defeated, but perhaps not entirely eradicated, and that vigilance was paramount. He personally oversaw the training of elite, specialized warrior units, whose senses were honed to detect the subtlest shifts in ambient energy, their movements precise and coordinated, capable of combating threats on both physical and spiritual planes. His reputation as a fierce protector and a wise leader resonated far beyond their borders, bringing requests for counsel and aid from distant packs. The Moonblood Pack's population steadily grew, a testament to their prosperity and security. The pups, born into a generation free from the direct shadow of the chrysalis, were spirited and curious, their laughter echoing through the forest. They learned the history of their merged heritage, hearing tales of Lyra's bravery, of Ilara and Rorik's improbable bond, and of the great war that had united their kind. They played games that mimicked the spiritual defenses taught by Ilara, their innocent energy strengthening the very fabric of the ley lines. Their own bond, the mate bond that had been forged in such profound tragedy, was now the deepest comfort in their lives. It was a silent, powerful resonance that flowed between them, a constant source of strength and understanding. Their touches were infused with decades of shared experience, their gazes holding unspoken volumes. Rurik's scent, earthy and potent, remained Ilara's anchor, a grounding presence that quieted the endless hum of spiritual energies that often filled her senses. They cherished their moments of solitude, walking through the ancient forests in their wolf forms, their paws moving in silent synchronicity, their minds intertwined in a timeless communion. In those moments, the weight of their duties dissolved, replaced by the simple, profound joy of their shared existence. The memory of Lyra, their mischievous, courageous twin, continued to be a vibrant part of their lives. Ilara often found herself smiling, recalling some absurd prank he had pulled, or a witty retort he had delivered. Rorik would often share anecdotes from Lyra's early training days, revealing a side of him Ilara had never fully known. His image was no longer shrouded in pain, but illuminated by a quiet pride, a legacy of bravery and truth. Ilara often visited the secluded clearing where he had fallen, bringing offerings of wild berries and fresh herbs, speaking to him as if he were still there, sharing her triumphs, seeking his quiet approval. She felt his presence not as a ghost, but as a living spirit woven into the very fabric of their thriving pack, a guardian spirit watching over them. One crisp autumn night, as the first flakes of snow began to fall, dusting the forest in a pristine white, Ilara and Rorik stood on the highest peak of their territory, the Moonblood Alpha's den glowing warmly below them. The unified howls of their pack rose to meet them, a powerful chorus of contentment and belonging. "Look at them, Rorik," Ilara whispered, her voice filled with a profound tenderness. "A testament to what we built, to what Lyra helped us find." Rorik wrapped his arm around her, pulling her close, the warmth of his body a comforting presence against the gathering chill. His gaze, usually sharp with strategic focus, was soft as he surveyed their vast, prosperous lands. "Every howl, every laugh, every pup that finds its strength," he murmured, his voice husky with emotion. "It's all because of the truth, because we faced it, no matter how hard." He turned to her, his dark eyes shimmering with a love that spanned years of shared challenges and triumphs. "Our story, Ilara," he said, his thumb gently caressing her cheek. "It's not just our own, it's the pack's story. It's a legend of what unity can achieve." Ilara leaned into his touch, her heart overflowing. "And it began with a choice," she said, her voice soft. "To forgive the unforgivable, to love the undeniable, and to seek truth above all else." Their lips met under the silent snowfall, a kiss of profound peace, of enduring love, and of a shared destiny that had defied all odds. The Alpha, her mate, who had once been her twin brother's killer, was now the unyielding anchor of her soul, the other half of her destiny, the very core of her world. The intricate tapestry of their lives, woven with threads of truth, betrayal, sacrifice, and an unbreakable bond, continued to unfold, adding new layers of joy and shared experience. The Moonblood Pack, a beacon of resilience and unity, stood ready for whatever the future might hold, their strength flowing from the very heart of their leaders. Two souls intertwined, forever bound by love, truth, and the enduring spirit of their kind. The ancient wind whispered through the snow-laden pines, carrying their story into the vastness of time, a legend born of sorrow and transformed by an extraordinary, eternal love, a testament to the power of unity and the unyielding hope that blossomed even in the darkest of times. Their legacy was not just survival, but the thriving, vibrant future they had meticulously forged together.